Hi everybody, it's Claire with another art journal video. Today I'm playing in a large Dilutions journal and I'm going to be painting some abstract flowers. So I'm not going for realism here, just kind of having a bit of fun and giving the idea of lots of pretty flowers. So I'm starting off using gesso on the background, and I'm actually sticking this collage paper in using the gesso. It's a great way to get something onto your background. It means it's not really obvious, it's not completely in your face, but it is there. And the gesso, when it's dry, it will stick these pieces down too. They won't come loose. So kind of like a win-win really. So I'm just mixing it up a bit, some small text and larger text, and just adding some pieces onto the blank page just to get rid of that blank start. So once that is dry, then I'm going to move on to the next part. So next I'm going in with some mineral paint, and I'm just pulling that around using a gift card just to get the paint across the page, just kind of smooshing it around, not really worrying too much about where it is, and spreading it around. I'm also using like a little pen to scratch into the paint, bit of sgraffito, just adding more interest into that background again and getting a little bit of texture. So this is the Painting for Circles stencil. I'm using a sky gloss spray through that just to get a little bit of colour into this background too to start off with. I also took a print off the stencil because it did have quite a lot of paint on it. That's something you can do. The gloss sprays can be quite temperamental. As you can see, this one was being a bit naughty. I have read somewhere on one of the Facebook pages for Dina Wakeley, somebody suggested using some Murphy's oil soap and water and dropping the nozzles into that and leaving them for a couple of days, and then apparently they can unclog. So this is something I'm going to give it a try and see if it works. So then I did some splatters as well. I also used what's it called, marine gloss spray, and did some splatters. And then I'm going in and using one of these wider brushes, and I'm starting off with Permanent Red Violet Light from Amsterdam Acrylic, and just doing some kind of flower shapes, not worrying too much about whether they're realistic or not. I was just kind of letting loose and having a bit of a play. So I've picked 3 different pinks from Amsterdam Acrylic. I guess if you were using the Dina Wakeley paints, then maybe would have chosen fuchsia, magenta and carnation. This one is fuchsia that I'm using next. So I'm just kind of going for colours that their tones work together really. So then I've gone with blackberry. Kind of these colours are all really pretty together. So then I'm just adding the centres of the flowers. You notice I'm not being particularly careful. I didn't spend hours and hours doing this. It was a really quick page to do. And then I'm just going in and adding more colours, a bit of tone-on-tone contrast with some of the flowers, adding extra marks onto them. It's all about building up the layers in this page really. So starting off with the collage paper in the background, then the paint, then the flowers, and then just building up the layers on the flowers too. And I just had lots of paint left in this really painty tray that I've got at the right hand side, and so I was just kind of thinking I'm just going to use all that up. I'm just going to keep adding more and more until those blobs of paint have disappeared. So it did need a really good dry before I went in with the next layer, which was using some pens I think to add some more detail, although it was quite loose and scribbly. Next I'm using the Jane Davenport License to Quill brush pen. This is a lovely pen. This is waterproof once it's dry, and depending on how much pressure you use you can get either really thin lines or thicker lines. So I'm using it right on the end, just gently, and just sketching in some loose flower shapes over the painted ones that I've done. Not particularly worrying too much, holding the pen quite loosely, and just enjoying sketching these funky, abstract, slightly abstract flowers. And then I'm just adding some of the stalks onto those flowers too, so they're not kind of floating around. So I wasn't going for realism with this, it really was just about having a bit of fun and having a play. Okay, so once I'd done that bit and it was dry, I then went in with a white Posca pen and added some little details, some dots into the centre of the flowers. And then I also added some splatters as well, using the really palest pink that I'd used, so the carnation one would work perfectly. Next I'm adding some text stamping. So this is a Stampers Anonymous text stamp. You'll have seen me use it before if you follow me on YouTube. And I'm just using that with the black archival ink. No, it wasn't black, I beg your pardon, it was a teal StazOn ink. And also some circles. That was an art by Marlene stamp, and I'm using that with a purple ink too. So I also stamped some of those over the flowers as well. So I'm kind of just building up lots of layers really, and thinking about marks that would work really well with the flowers. So next I'm going in with my Signo Uniball, and I'm just scribbling over those flower shapes again, adding another contrast against the black and the colours. And this is sort of, for me, starting to come together. So this was quite an intuitive page really. I didn't have anything to copy. I just, like I've said, I just had a play and just went with how I felt and what I felt I needed to do next. So next I'm adding my quote at the top of the page. I'm giving that dry, and then I'm just going in and just altering those letters a little bit. So I'm putting like a little line at the end of all the ascending and descending lines. It's just like creating a font style. It's something that the more you practice, the more you'll get confident with. Just mixing up your writing a little bit. It's lots of fun to play with. And then I'm using the Signo Uniball in white, and I'm just adding like a drop shadow onto these letters, and it just kind of pops them out from the background a little bit. You could also do this in a bright colour too if you wanted to, that was a contrast to the background. That would also help the letters to pop out, or of course you could just leave them black if you wanted to. But often I don't know when to stop, as you know, and sometimes when I've done this extra bit to my letters I think, oh, I should not have done that, but it's okay, it really doesn't matter. There we go, that is the finished page. So just having lots of fun with different colours of paint, painting some really cool flower shapes, and just kind of letting loose and going with the flow. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.